see these opportunities and take advantage of them. So those are the things that I see. But also, probably the last, Africa has so many people that live in agriculture. The rest of the world today is struggling with, the economies are struggling because people are not spending. Africa's spending power is locked up in these people. We need to move agriculture to become the spending engine of our continent, and we can do that.
Excellent, wonderful. I'm ready. I'm almost ready to write a check, but I don't know where to put my money. Can you help us, Claire? I mean, how can I decide? If I'm an investor and I'm a multilateral, and how do I decide where do I put my investment? How do you tell people what to invest in and really why to come to Africa, why Rwanda?
Why Rwanda? Thank you very much, Vanessa. And let me start by thanking AGRA for organizing this forum. I think they've been very innovative at both having a hybrid session in Kigali and also online. And I think with the pandemic and the very specific circumstances we are being called to be innovative. And I think this is one way of innovation that we've seen with AGRAF. We're also very pleased as Rwanda to be hosting AGRAF headquarters that was recently decided, and we're very happy to be associated with this going forward. Now, I'm also very pleased that we're discussing a deal room approach to agriculture, because when I see the topics that the deal room is looking at, whether it's access to finance by women or whether it's technology in agriculture or feeding in cities, these are very pertinent topics and very many investment opportunities that arise from these discussions that we see today. But going back to your question, Vanessa, why Rwanda, why Africa? And I think Dr. Kalibata did touch on why Africa, you know, whether it's the population, both on the workforce side, but also on the consumption side. We see a very big population of 1.2 billion, a key market, which is something that you can't ignore, underpinned by very specific integration agreements that we have, such as the Continental Free Trade Area. And then, so on the consumption side, but also on the land side, you know, this figure of 60% of arable land, I think everybody has heard of that. But there's really raw materials and resources that Africa has to underpin such opportunities. But let me go maybe to give Rwanda as a specific example. When we talk to investors, what do we tell them about investing in Rwanda, which I think is a good example for the rest of the continent as well, very similar situations. Now, for Rwanda, I think one thing that we really underpin is that we're a low-risk country. If you look at safety index, if you look at governance structures, we like to say Rwanda is one place where women can walk freely at night, and we're ranked 5th safest place for a girl or woman to work. So you can work freely, you can farm freely, and there's safety in the environment for you to do that. If you look at also just the economy in general, the Fitch rating that was released recently for Rwanda was B+ with a stable outlook. Again, very, very good fundamental economic indicators. And also just the fact that Rwanda is growing among the fastest countries on the continent. And again, Dr. Kalibata did talk about fast-growing continent. And I think Rwanda is an example of the continent that we see with that optimism. Last year, we grew at 9.4%, which was among the highest economic growth rates. So if you're investing in agriculture and investing in Rwanda, you actually see that you're growing with the continent. Now, of course, COVID-19 brought a different story, and we shall put that on the side for now. But I think the outlook, even from what Fitch said to managing the COVID-19 effects and being able to continue with the plans for growth, has been very clear for Rwanda. But let me also talk about the business environment. Obviously, if you're going to invest in agriculture, you want to make sure that you have the correct conducive environment for doing that. And I think the African continent has been one of those that has been committed to improving their business environment. And Rwanda is one example as well. If you look at our property rights, for example, if you're going to be in agriculture, you want to make sure that you can transfer your land quickly, you can transfer your property quickly, and you can use it as collateral if you go and borrow money from a bank. These are things that we've made really, really easy, and we've automated. Rwanda today is ranked the 3rd easiest place to transfer property or transfer land, because it takes less than 2 weeks to do that from start to finish. We've also made it very easy to use not just fixed collateral, such as land, to get a loan, but you can use your movable property as well. And there's a law, there's a system, there's an online structure to do that. You can get your crops or your inventory in your stores and use that as collateral to borrow. And there is an infrastructure, both legal and automated, that can actually allow you to access banking and use your property or your crops or as collateral. So this business environment has been very crucial in attracting investors to come to Rwanda.
I'm more than convinced, but I have a few small doubts in my mind. A little bit of experience and a few good friends have told me that once they have an idea and they're convinced about an investment, then the hard work has only begun.
Yes,
And
which is
maybe,
true.
Dr. Kalibata, you can tell us from your experience, how can private companies work better with governments to work through this very challenging investment process? Once the idea is there, turning it into a steady, profitable business reality. What do you think?
So Claire has described a process that seems pretty simple when she's describing it. I just want to say that there's so much hard work, so much hard work that goes into all those processes that she's talked about, whether it's ensuring that there's a land system that works, whether it's ensuring that the policy and political environment works. All these things take a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of time, and I really don't want it to sound as simple as you know, the way it is described. It's extremely complicated. So recognizing that complexity, from where I sit as an institution, AGRA as an institution that works from the continental perspective, we look at countries like Rwanda, we look at countries like Ethiopia, we look at countries like Ghana that are making progress in some of these areas of working with the private sector, and we look at the milestones they've achieved and how they achieve them, and we use that opportunity and that learning to help countries that are struggling to make this happen, to document some of these efforts and make sure that countries have an opportunity to learn from them, but also to create learning opportunities between the country and the country. So I would say that from where AGRA is sitting, the biggest opportunity is the D-room opportunity, where we say businesses in Africa are struggling, sometimes from capacity perspective, sometimes for a resource perspective, but there are also people that are looking to invest on this continent, and they want to know where the big ideas are, and they want to know where the political environment is right, and they want to know where the policy environment is right, and they want to know where it is safe. So we help make those matches. That's the idea of the D-room. But also, really creating enough visibility for all the countries to have a sense of what it takes. Also creating enough visibility for businesses to understand what is happening on the ground. So the D-room idea really is where some of this comes together in terms of how countries can learn from each other, how businesses can learn from each other, and how opportunities can be profiled. It's extremely difficult to get businesses off the ground, but it becomes so much easier when you have a partner or partners, and AGRA is not working alone, or partners that are willing to show you what is possible, that are willing to profile countries that are interested in putting businesses forward, and that are willing to walk the journey with you. AGRA works on behalf of smallholder farmers. We 100% believe in smallholder farmers, in making that environment viable. So what we do from a viability perspective is to strengthen SME capacity around them, but also to strengthen capacities of businesses, the business environment, so that the agricultural sector can move forward. But I'm sure Claire, from a very live perspective, has more examples of what it takes to make those type of deals work.
So I'm taking advantage of our technical platform being live to go over time by a few minutes. So I'm warning everyone, we have yet 2 more critical questions, which tee up the whole week. And really, from my perspective, the challenge that we want to set aside of COVID is right in front of us, right? Sure. It's causing everyone to have more angst than usual, right? On every level, whether it's our children asking us, you know, what's going to happen next, for schools to stay open, for airplanes to keep flying, even at every level. And yet, Africa has had so many interesting and different challenges. And Rwanda is, of course, a prime example of overcoming challenges. And bringing investment is a way of also of showing that there is actually a way to be profitable, a way for youth to be engaged, like you mentioned. We have this fantastic competition with the go-getters, which will be tomorrow, right, with the pitches, where we have more than 800 companies who logged into the deal room, set up their profiles, right? So what do you think is the key to closing the deal? everything is ripe and ready, and we have this nervousness. What do people do? What do governments do? What do companies do? How do we finally close the deal?
So I think, first of all, the role of government is very important. And again, when I talked about some of the business reforms that we talked about, the process of facilitating or simplification of business environment is not simple at all. It's a difficult but very doable, as we've seen in Rwanda, and as we've seen that nobody's going to come and solve these issues for you. You know, as a government, as a people, as private sector, we need to come together to resolve these issues. So I think two things are very important when you think about closing deals. One is partnerships, and the other is coordination. On partnerships, it's extremely important, as we've seen, that if you're going to create an ecosystem that works, you bring all the key players together. We have agriculture projects where we bring the government to provide the leadership and the vision of what's needed at the very top level. And then you have private sector, public-private partnerships. We have a few projects we're going to be showing in the deal room for Rwanda. One of them is GACO, which is a meat processing facility, combination of government and private sector. Government does the irrigation, does the infrastructure, puts a road, electricity and water. Private sector brings the money to invest in the beef processing, and we'll be showing that example. Another one is Gabiro, same thing, infrastructure by government, but also coordinating. Because you have communities that have land, you have local government who brings and convenes those together so that each one does their part. So that level of partnerships are extremely important. The other example I want to give on partnership that is really important is also how do you bring partners to resolve issues that you have. One of the ones we have is skills. How do you bring skills to teach agriculture best practices? One example we have is a partnership with Howard Buffett Foundation, a philanthropic organization, again, another segment of partnership, that came into Rwanda and built the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, again, to bring those skills and to make them available in the country. So this level of partnerships, and I think government has a big role in bringing the philanthropy, bringing the private sector, bringing the government together and do partnerships that actually solve issues but get you to where you want to be, which is attracting investments in agriculture. The second one is coordination. Now, when you think about doing all these things, how do you actually put systems that allow coordination to happen? One example I'd like to give is in Gabiro. Gabiro was a project we had for irrigation to clear about 15,000 hectares of land in different phases. What we needed to do is to bring not just the partners communities, but also to be able to coordinate within government, because you have agriculture ministry, you have Rwanda Development Board, you have finance ministry. Each of them had a role to play. Finance ministry to provide financing for infrastructure. You had local government. And so what we did is created a steering committee that had all the key players for this one project. So they met weekly, discussed specific issues, and because of that coordination and steering committee, supported by skilled people. So part of the steering committee was a team of negotiators, financial analysts and legal, who are looking at these aspects. What agreements are needed? How do you negotiate? How do you bring very highly skilled financial analysts to do models that will make investors see that this thing can work, and also make government invest because they know that it works. So partnerships and coordination, I think, very key, underpinned by proper skills of people to negotiate and close deals. Thank you.
Such an inspiring, exciting, huge opportunities this week. We have 15 country sessions. We hope that all 50 of our investors and the 80-something multilaterals, which are all in the deal room, will come in and join in this investment partnership opportunities. We continue with it throughout the AGRF, but even throughout the year, to hope to mobilize even more investment in agriculture and in food and in feeding people, whether they be in a rural environment or an urban environment, and making it, of course, sustainable. This is the key. So we're so excited to have been here with all of you. We appreciate the technical issues, the delays, and the fantastic speakers that came before us. All of the AGRF is standing by to launch into doing deals and getting this business done. So let's clap for the deal room because we couldn't get a drum. So we're going to officially launch with a clap and go live.
So
Thank you so much,
Go
Dr.
deal room.
Kalibat.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Good. Very good. Thank you.
will be joining you for the AGRF launch this afternoon, live. We're looking forward to seeing all of you throughout the day. Bring your friends, tweet,
Also through
LinkedIn, Facebook. Let's go on social media. And if your family isn't watching, we're waiting for them to log in too.
Should we? Sound? Lutanje, there? Should we start? Welcome to the Deal Room, where the government of Rwanda is going to present to you the available investment opportunities in the agricultural sector. Now, details related to the projects have been prepared and, of course, will be shared with you on all our websites, including Rwanda Development Board. Now, we look forward to your participation and particularly for you to be part of the remarkable Rwanda journey by investing in the agricultural sector. Now, without further ado, allow me to introduce the CEO of Rwanda Development Board, Claire Kamanzi, for her opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Fiona. And dear esteemed investors and participants this afternoon, it's our great pleasure and honor to welcome you to Rwanda's Deal Room 2020. We're indeed very pleased to be presenting new and exciting investment opportunities in the agriculture space in Rwanda. And we are confident that you will find the opportunities both unique, viable, and also worth your investment. You'll also be pleased to learn that the government of Rwanda continues to invest resources, time, to make sure that agriculture transformation happens in our country. We are working very hard to develop the agriculture sector in general, but more specifically, we are taking a number of measures to support private companies and entrepreneurs to thrive in this sector. Evidently, agriculture is an important part of our economy. Today, it accounts for nearly 24% of our GDP and employs over 56% of the active population. When we speak about transformation of Rwanda's economy, we also speak about transformation of agriculture in tandem. This year, we're presenting and discussing with you over 26 investment opportunities in various agriculture subsectors, including irrigation, beef, poultry processing, horticulture, coffee and tea, agro-processing, and crop sourcing. As we plan to take you through our opportunities, we're keenly looking forward to your participation, your questions, and more importantly, your partnerships. Once again, allow me, dear investors and participants, to give you a very warm welcome virtually and also physically for those who are in Kigali to this session. And also we hope that you will find it exciting and we look forward to a very engaging session. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, CEO, for that opening remark. And now I want to welcome on board Birasa. Of course, he's going to be giving us some of the pitch presentations for you as an investor to see what will fit you and, of course, your budget to come and invest in remarkable Rwanda. Welcome, Birasa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable CEO. Thank you so much, Fiona, for this opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed investors, thank you so much, and you are most welcome to our exciting session about discussions on the deals that related to Rwanda, and more importantly, our investment opportunities that we are able to show to you are related to the investment in agriculture. So this is yet another edition that Rwanda is presenting opportunities in the sector. We have had opportunities, in the previous editions. Today we have another new investment opportunities, and I think I do hope that you take advantage of this and be happy to invest with our remarkable Rwanda. So my presentation is structured in 3 ways. First, I'll be talking about the overall investment climate in Rwanda, particularly focusing on the key macroeconomic indicators that shows why actually should you do your investment here and why Rwanda should be your first choice to do investment. So there are several macroeconomic indicators that are giving you a very good information at a glance. We just have to discuss a few of them, the key macroeconomic indicators. Then the second part will be on the few areas of agriculture that we think they are giving some opportunities, but in general, focusing on the key subsectors. So we have 9 of them. I go through those subsectors, showing you and telling you what you have in each subsector. And lastly, and the most important, we present around 9 key investment areas that we think are ready for the investment. Some of these are currently owned by the government. Others, government is a partner and is willing to sell or share some shares or probably go into the PPP or JV with the private investors. So it's a very, very attractive and very promising investment opportunities. With regard to macroeconomic indicators, these are some of the information, particularly that shows where the country stands today in terms of performance, being on the GDP level, on the population size, which I think at a certain point, of course, population talks about the market opportunity, but most importantly, on the GDP per capita, which shows the level of purchasing power. So the population in Rwanda is growing, but at the same time, the GDP per capita is also growing, which gives a very good opportunity for the investors actually to tap on that. Above that, the literacy level has been going high. We are now at 73, which is another indicator showing that the human capital is improving here, meaning that the human resources for the employment is also available. But the most importantly is the rating of the country in terms of the financial performance. So these are the ratings from the independent organizations. So for over recent years, our country has been ranked B+, which of course is a very good important indicator in terms of raising confidence for the private investors on how the country stands vis-a-vis on the international level. Related to that, the reforms that have been taking place that of course shows where the country stands today in terms of other indicators. The country is very low risk in terms of how the business operates. It's a country that you can see very few of them where we can walk 24 hours without any problem. So it's ranked the 50th safest country in the world. The debt rate ratio is very, very low. And of course, transparency, which is very, very important. So transparency, as you know, it gives opportunity to everybody to do investment. So regardless of where you are coming from, regardless of the investment capacity, you are able to do investment here because of this transparency, especially when it comes to the market and the access to the investment opportunities. Our country is also growing fast if you compare. You can see it's ranked second in terms of the FDI and the GDP in the region, and of course in the human development. In terms of the business friendly, we are also second doing business in Africa, where you can do your business registration in 60 hours only. And most importantly, this can be done online. So you don't have to be here to do your business registration. And it takes only 6 hours to get your certificate approved, and then you start your business immediately. In terms of the regional platform, Rwanda is a member of over 50 agreements, of which of course gives more open to the market access, being in Africa at a continental level, but also globally. And the other thing that normally as investors can tap in terms of accessing markets in different places. Most importantly, Rwanda is ranked at the second in terms of MICE, so which makes actually our city more attractive, even in terms of the tourism or tourists that are coming here. The number is increasing. You can see it only for 2019, we recorded around 1.6 million tourists that came to Rwanda. And that's a very, very good indicator of how the market is growing. Whenever they come here as a tourist, of course, they buy different items, particularly the food-related items. So that, of course, shows exactly how potential the country is in terms of promoting and giving chances to private investors. In terms of why you should actually do the investment here, we have key 5 items that proves you that doing investment here is very attractive. One, we have the investment climate, as I said earlier, which gives room for every investor to do the investment here. We have government support, which I think has been said already by our CEO in terms of how government supports the investors. We have different systems that support the private investors, being on the level of registration, but also on the aftercare system that helps in terms of following up how the investors are surviving, how they are working, to ensure that they can do their businesses without any interruption. There is a very rich ecosystem, I'm coming back on that, that helps the investor to flourish and do their businesses without any problem. The climatic conditions also support agriculture in different sectors, being horticulture, the commercial crops like tea and coffee that can be grown almost every part of the country. This also gives another opportunity to do the investment because of that climatic conditions. And of course, Rwanda being connected to different areas globally, being in the region, but also in Africa, particularly the linkage that's related to the transport system with the national carrier and the other international airlines that connect to Kigali and some other places. So this, of course, gives another option in terms of getting access to the market. I said earlier about the reforms that country has been taking, particularly in terms of easing doing business here, that has helped a lot in terms of attracting FDI, but also even the domestic investments. Some of them you can see over there, and then you can see the impact of doing that. The business registration has been made easy, not only in terms of incorporating a company name with the RDB, but also in terms of registration for other requirements, including VAT and other systems. That's about the tax systems. It has also been made easier to register the property, doing business across the borders. We have put systems at the border where people can do trading with our regional counterparts, countries nearby without any problem, and transport of goods has been made easy. The borders are open 24 hours, which means, of course, it makes it easier for people to do their businesses without any problem. And of course, in terms of enforcing contracts, we have where people can log in if it's cases or any complaint can be done using online systems without having to do any contacts. And as a result of all these reforms, as you can see, those are some of the 4 major impacts. One of them is that our country has been, been ranked first in terms of doing business registration, as I said earlier. Just takes 6 hours for that to happen. Then it's the second best African economy for ease of doing business. Then in terms of registering FDIs has also been high. And of course, in terms of corruption, we are ranked very, very low if you compare with the other countries. And this, of course, helps a lot in terms of understanding the transparency of how the business work and also giving assurance to the business community. In terms of government support, there are a host of support systems, mechanisms that government has put in place, being access to logistics, how it's done, like for instance, the pack house, which is facilitating especially companies that are doing export of the products to make sure that they can do sorting their products, sell them when they are still in very good condition until they get to the final destination. There's also, in terms of support to acquire land and the capital, that has made also easy. We have also a very dedicated team that is working to support private investors. The good thing is that we have RDB, which works as a gateway, as one stop shop you can get all types of services, but also in the other public institutions, being the ministries, local government, you see the investment officers that are there to support investors wherever they go in terms of looking for the information and getting data. RDB has put a system to help investors that are already established here. That's about the aftercare, to ensure that they are being supported wherever they are at all times of their businesses activities. There's also, in terms of the free charge for business registration, it's done for free here. And as I said, it's only 6 hours that will take. In terms of registration for the capital and even the use of capital, there are no restrictions. You can do capital outflow without any restrictions. We have other incentives the government has provided in terms of the corporate income tax that goes up to 50% with those levels of investment, the accelerated depreciation rate, and all of that. But importantly for agriculture, apart from those general incentives that the government provides, there are specific incentives that government has earmarked particularly for the investments in agriculture. So most of the equipment that we import for agriculture, they're imported for free without paying import duties. And that's very, very important, and also VAT exemption. So this actually helps in terms of reducing costs that will be related to those tax regime, and it helps in terms of also empowering private investors to do their business without going through these charges. So those are some of the government supports that have been put in place. In terms of the ecosystem of what I said earlier, as you can see, we have this type of the environment that is conducive and gives a very good platform for a private investor to work. You have at the top tier the workforce in terms of where you can source now the human capital or labor to work in your farm. So you have different institutions, especially academic institutions, that are training people, the young people, in the areas related to agriculture and agribusiness. And these are the key partners, either doing research, but also in the human capital development in terms of the training. You have also these support institutions, as I said earlier. The key ones are here. You have RDB that provides all sorts of support. You can get information about government. You can get information about the investment climate. You can get information that you want probably to help you decide your business activity and your investment level to be done. This can be obtained with the RDB. So there's a team that is dedicated to help in terms of doing analysis, sharing the information that can help in terms of you doing the deals. Then you have NAEB, which is in charge of export promotion of the country, where facilities are provided, as I said earlier, including like the pack house, but also the export markets, the information related to that, and how the linkage can be created. And then you have the Minister of Agriculture, which is, I would say, the custodian of the sector, that is in charge of the policies, but also in terms of the implementation framework within its portfolio. And then on the other side, you have now the development partners that are doing a lot of work here, working with the government institutions in different ways, either supporting the investment for the public level, supporting the community that normally supplies raw materials to the investors, and so on and so on. So they are actually, if you combine these institutions, they provide that kind of environment, which is very conducive for the investor to do their businesses here in Rwanda. Maybe I won't do very much on the climatic conditions, because Rwanda is very well known in terms of very attractive climatic conditions. The temperature is normally low and very average in terms. The rainfall is also available almost in all parts of the country. The soil conditions are also very good in terms of supporting the production of different agricultural products. And you have information related to these physical features that can also be shared by the private investor in terms of deciding where the investment can be done, when, how, and in what mechanisms. So these are very important in terms of the decisions. With the market accessibility, we have the market access in terms of the regional countries. As I said, we are the member of the EAC countries, that's the East African Community. There is the CEPGE that brings together DRC and Burundi, but there are so many other regional and international groupings, of which Rwanda is a member of those. Now, apart from that, we have different connections, especially with our national carrier that goes in different destinations, being in Asia, Europe, and so many parts of Africa, that all presents a very big market opportunity that investors can use in terms of accessing those markets. So that's actually a very good opportunity that we can use as an investor in terms of accessing markets. These are a few examples of the companies and brands that are very well known, that are already established here. Some of them are creating a very good linkage for agriculture. Others are in terms of facilitation, either in terms of technology enhancement, but also in terms of supporting the sector in different ways. So coming here, of course, you'll be having the opportunity to work closely with these existing international and multinational companies that are already existing in Rwanda. So briefly, that's about the macroeconomic conditions that they're giving a very good investment climate in terms of supporting private investments to happen. Now, talking about agriculture at a glance, the sector is too wide. It talks so many opportunities, but also it gives on how it has been evolving for so many years. These are just some of the statistics that are showing the plans where the country wants to be in the next 6 years until 2024. So the government is planning to inject around $3 billion until 2024 in the sector, and you can see how it's going to be divided. Around 25% of that money goes into irrigation schemes. This is a very important investment in terms of de-risking, but also in terms of making agriculture more sustainable and also becoming more resilient. So that's very, very important. Number two is about market linkages, and this is in terms of facilitating the community, the private investors, in terms of providing subsidies, incentives, infrastructure that are related to market linkages, and of course capacity building, especially of smallholder farmers. Being on the cooperative organizations, providing some facilities either for post-harvest management and all of that. And then you have the resilience level to make sure that the land is also protected, and then the amount that goes into the animal resources, especially in terms of increasing the livestock sector, being in terms of number, but also in the efficiency in terms of the production. So this is the money that will be injected by the government in the sector. But looking closely, where the money goes, a biggest percentage of that money should be going in the pockets of the private investors who are doing investments related to these areas, either in terms of tapping where these irrigations or other facilities are going to be, or maybe working with the community in terms of different ways that will get this linkage. So in a nutshell, that's where the sector is going. That's where you are planning to be, especially until 2024. And these are the projections of what's going to happen in terms of the impact of the sector, in the overall, in terms of the employment, and what is contributing even currently on our GDP. So it is still remain a very important sector for our development. So investing in the sector, of course, you're contributing the cost, but of course, gaining a lot in terms of the opportunities available. Going through now the subsectors, as I said, these are not exhaustive. We shall have enough time to discuss about this, but we are also providing the linkages where the information can be provided for these subsectors. But if you allow me, I can just take you through by mentioning some of few of them that are within the subsector. One of them is a horticulture. As I said, Rwanda is blessed to have a very good climate that supports the farming and the growth of different horticultural crops. We are talking about avocado, of which the global market is growing very, very rapidly, and we are seeing so many companies coming here to work into this subsector. But there are also flowers. You would see also fruits, of which market is also growing, and so on and so on. So we have different sites that have been earmarked, but there are also different models that you're developing here to ensure that horticulture is very, very well developed, and to also help the private investor do the investments into that. There's also feed. I talked earlier about the money going into the livestock. Part of that money is to ensure that the number of livestock is increasing, using different systems, especially like giving livestock to the community, but also telling the private people to do investment into that. Doing that investment in livestock, of course, we require feeds also to be produced, to feed the animals. And of course, that becomes a very big opportunity for the investors. Till today, we are still seeing some shortages on the animal feeds, and that's why we are calling now for the investors to tap this opportunity. We have now poultry in terms of eggs, but most importantly, the meat, the chicken meat. We are looking for the investors who can actually go, do investments into that by investing into poultry, producing especially chicken that can be used for the meat production. There is market growing here in terms of the purchasing power, but of course the high-end market is also growing, what we call the niche markets. We have very recently registered the KFC that is buying a lot of chicken meat, that is also looking for a supplier that can sustain the market. And of course, I'm sure they'll also be looking at how they can increase their outlets. And whenever that number increases, of course, they will need also the supply to increase for the chicken meat. So that is a very good opportunity, and the market already assured. Meat production either being for beef, I'll talk about that shortly, but also pork is also another area. There's a dairy, particularly for the powdered milk. We're looking for the investor into that. We are producing a lot of milk here, and if you look in terms of what goes into the formal processing, is very little. So if you can get someone who can also do investment into that, especially in the powdered milk, that's a very welcome investment area. There's also aquaculture, either being for fish cages, ponds, and so on. It's another opportunity. You have lakes that are very good for the investment into that. Then logistics, especially the cold room part in terms of transporting the fresh produce from the production area to the pack house up to the destination where the market is secured. So that's the area that we're looking actually the investment to be done. We have some sites that have been developed especially for the production of the fresh produce like vegetables that you're looking for the investor who can put centers, logistics to the transport in those areas to ensure that we also reduce the post-harvest losses. So it's a very big opportunity. This also applies in the milk marketing and distribution systems that also can work into that. Then there's also seeds and fertilizer. Much as we promote investment in agriculture, seed sector is also becoming another area that people are focusing on to ensure that we sustain our market by using seeds produced here, but also fertilizer, being organic and chemical, that can be produced and help in terms of the increasing the production. So that has another important area. And then irrigation and mechanization. As I said, we have some few sites that are available of a bigger size that can be used for private irrigation schemes, but also the mechanization. We did some studies very recently to show how the mechanization would be a very good potential for the private investors. The number of tractors available is very low, and that's of course affecting. And yet our target is to ensure that by 2024, at least 50% of the Arab brand will be used through the mechanization system. And that's why operations, the businesses into mechanization, particularly focusing on these tractors that can be used in different terrain that we have in the country, is a very good opportunity, either going into leasing, but also doing the assembling plant in the country. So in a nutshell, these are some of the investment opportunities that we're talking about, but in general, so allow me now to go into specific investment opportunities. We selected a few of them. We have a huge document that talks about these opportunities that's available on our website, which you can read and scroll and see what you're providing there in terms of opportunity. But these are some of them. So we have this Kigali wholesale market, which works in terms of like forward and backward linkage in terms of linking the smallholder farmers, the production area, but also the market area. So we want actually to move from the current marketing system to a modern system that brings fresh produce. We maintain them, you do the sorting, you do the grading, you do the marketing of those either in the local markets, but also for the export. So government has already secured the land for that particular business in our special economic zone of around 6.5 hectares, and is now looking for a private partner to do this business. We have the business plan already that shows how this business would work, and you're talking with the investment that would in the region of around 32 million, but of course this can be done into phases. So the market can be constructed. And of course you'll be providing rooms for renting for other business people, but also connecting with the markets, either for the local market, but also for the export market. The impact of this business is huge in terms of the employment, but also the income generation for the operator. So the IRR shows that the benefits will be high in terms of the person who's going to do the business into this. So you're looking for the partner into Kigali wholesale market that can work with the government in this business, either doing a PPP but a full acquisition, and we are very much looking for the people interested into very important business. Another one is the Bella flour that has been now operational for almost 8 years now. It's actually performing very well. As you know, the flour market is booming, leave alone the very recent challenges related to the COVID-19, but it has been moving, actually performing very well, and it's going to continue performing the same way. So government has secured already a land in the eastern province. It's a very good place earmarked for the business, for the flour business, of around 100 hectares that can be used for that. So around 40 hectares has already been developed, and it's fully operational now. You can see the greenhouses, the export of flowers is already taking place, and revenues are being generated because of that business. But as you know, government, of course, will be happy to partner with a private operator that can bring, of course, more innovations into this business. So we are very much looking for a partner into this business. More information can also be shared in that. The other one, is our Kigembe fish farm. As I said earlier, we are talking a lot about the investment promotion in the fishery subsector for the simple reason we are promoting health of our people, but also you're talking about the market opportunities that are available around our country. So with this Kigembe fish farm, it has been there for many, many years, and the government is looking how to revamp it. So it has so many facilities. I can see buildings, land, fish ponds, and so on. Now, there are twin important things that are related to this business. One is the production of the ready fish that you can sell to the market, of which I said, of course, the market for this is growing, either in Rwanda, but also in the region. But most importantly are the fingerlings. You can see the numbers there for the fingerlings that you're looking for, around 80 million plus the fingerlings. We are talking of promoting investment in the fishery sector, either in the fish cages, in the ponds, and so on. But you are lacking producers of fingerlings that can help these people that are doing investment into this. So you're looking, badly people that can do investment into this facility because it has already a hatchery that can help in terms of producing fingerlings. And the market for this is almost ready because we have people that are operating into the fishery sector. So the documents are ready to this project, and you are very much open to engage the private investor that will be willing to do investment into this facility. It is still a PPP model that you can work together because it still has one of the research components that you want to develop in terms of looking for the breeds that can be for the existing local conditions. So you are very much welcome into that. The other one is the Gabiro irrigation project. You might have heard about this scheme. It's a special scheme for different reasons, but one of them is that we want to create the agriculture hub. And that's why you talk about this Gabiro irrigation scheme. It's going to work like a hub. It's going to do agriculture in terms of farming. It's going to do agriculture in terms of processing. It's going to do agriculture in terms of capacity building and training. So it's a unique scheme that will cover around 15,600 hectares in total. And we are doing it in phases. So phase 1 is going to cover about 5,600 hectares. And 70% of that land has been earmarked for commercial farming. So it's going to be leased to the private operators, and the land is going to be put into blocks of 200 to 300 hectares. We have been receiving companies writing to us asking, for the land to lease into that scheme. And we do encourage people also to do the same. It's opening for leasing model to lease that land, but also government is looking people that can acquire part of its shares. It's a kind of JV model that brings together government and a private company that has a huge experience in irrigation technology. It's called Netafim. It's a global company that has been working this in several places. So government is a majority shareholder of around 90%, with the Netafim taking around 10%. So part of the investment, of course, will be leasing this land for the 70%, but also going into the investment by acquiring government shares. So it's a huge opportunity, not only in terms of leasing land, acquiring government shares, but also the linkage with the smallholder farmers that are going to get 30% of that land of around 1,600 hectares for their own use. So this land can also be used even for outgrower scheme. It's another opportunity for the company that are very much experienced into that model to work with the smallholder farmers into that. So this scheme is open, and we do hope it to be ready next year. And as you can see on the screen, these are the pictures of what is taking place now at the site. There's already activities have already started, and we are now starting with the what you call demo farm and the demo dairy, which are going to work mainly as technology enhancement centers, either in terms of supporting the community around the area, but also for learning purposes. It's a scheme that's going to actually transform agriculture in a different ways in terms of the investment, but also in terms of technology enhancement. So you are very much welcome into that and partner with the government in that project. The other one is the Gako beef project. We are developing a beef sector, and it's operating in a very big land that has been earmarked for that purpose of around 6,000 hectares. There are already cattle that are in place. There are all the infrastructure that have been put in place in terms of the access road, the irrigation facilities, electricity is already in place, and so on and so on. We have so far the local investors that are working in the government to promote and invest in the project, but we're also looking for the other investors to come into this project, especially those that have experience in the beef sector that can help in terms of developing it, putting also money, but bring also the know-how into this sector and market access. So you are very much welcome, and we have around 6 business lines that we intend to do in this particular project. One is farm, in terms of increasing the number of beef cattle that are available in the facility at the moment, up to around 15,000 cattle. We are talking about the feedlot that has to be put in place to ensure that we get enough bulls for the slaughter. And then we talk about the feed mill that has to be there to ensure that we can also produce feeds for the cattle. There's also a slaughter facility, tannery, and then rendering facility. So these are some of the business lines that we are proposing in the project, and the plans are underway to ensure that the implementation for these can happen. So it's a very big opportunity that we really invite people to also take part into this. The other opportunity is the seed processing plant that already operational, has been put by the government. It's in the special economic zone. It has a capacity of processing around 10,000 tons of seeds for 8 hours per day, and has been operational. So as I said, our country is looking to achieve seed self-sufficiency, and seed processing plant is one of the sectors that has to be invested to ensure that the seed sector is very much developed. So the plant has already been put in place, and I've been looking for a strategic investor who can operate the plant, either through the PPP or a full acquisition of the model. Equipment are still in very good condition. The buildings are also in very good condition, and also the facility area is also enough even to do the expansion of the seed plant. So you are very much welcome for that, and we'll be very much happy to engage with you to discuss about this deal as well. We have also a coffee roasting facility that's already existing, and it's serving the local market, but also the export market. It's being shared by different institutions, mainly under the government. As you can see, it's 25% shareholding structure. So these shares are also ready to be sold to the private operator. So the plant has huge capacity. It has very good connection with the coffee farmers, with around 7 cooperatives that are supplying coffee to the processing plant. So we are very much also keenly looking for the private investor who can work with us in this very important business opportunity. So the documents are also available that shows how the business works and the prospects around that. There are a few other projects that we are also happy to showcase to you. One of them is this wheat processing plant that has been operational for so many years in the southern part of the country. It's serving around 13 wheat growers cooperative who are supplying wheat grains to the factory. We are also looking for the private investor who can also partner into this. So meaning that the source of raw materials has been assured because of that. The other one is the tomato processing plant. Very, very important one because it's actually being serviced by irrigation scheme that is around 600 hectares that government has already developed. So you're looking now for the private investor who can invest into this plant. The land for the factory is already available. The tomato processing products are very much needed in Rwanda because currently there's no single factory doing that. So meaning that one, you have access to raw materials because of that irrigation scheme, but number two is the market which is ready. Maybe this is my last slide. We have other opportunities in the maize processing and then cassava processing plant, especially because now the raw materials for these are also available. Some of these, we are selling some shares that are currently owned by the government. So briefly, we are very much happy and you are most welcome to work with us. Rwanda, as I said earlier, it's open and we'll be happy to facilitate and support your businesses. These are our contacts. Feel free to contact us anytime and then we'll be happy to work with you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Vidasa, for a very detailed portfolio, if you should call it that way, for the investors to come, of course, and invest in remarkable Rwanda. Well, right now, we're going to go straight to our panelists, where we will be talking and looking to some of the issues that you as an investor might have, or the question that you might have. So we will be talking to the Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Mr. Jean-Claude Musabyimana. And of course, we will also be looking and talking to other investors. But of course, Mr. Birasa will also be part of our panelists, because he will be telling us in details what some of our investors from abroad can look into, specifically who can they talk to, which office can they go to. So these are some of the things that we'll be looking and talking. So join us as we wait for Mr. Birasa to come. And we look at also as well the role of the young entrepreneurs, those who are in agribusiness. What are they doing? Where are they today? Are they supported by the government? Are they supported by fellow agri-businesses like them, and how fast do they grow? Because it is important that the younger ones are not left behind as others continue to grow. Of course, we'll also be looking into land use and consolidation. Is there enough land for you as an investor to come on board and of course, and invest in remarkable Rwanda? What are some of the mechanisms you might wonder that one would need? So these are some of the things, of course, we'll be talking to, and especially the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources is here to tackle that. So join us as we start off. Thank you, Birasa, for joining us. So thank you very much for joining us for this session. I'll start off with you, Honorable Permanent Secretary and the Ministry of Agriculture, of course, and Animal Resources. Rwanda is considered by many as a small country, especially because they say that we are landlocked, you know. We do not have the sea, we do not have, you know. But then, with limited size of land, especially for agriculture, but what strategies have you put in place to support the private investors to get access to land, especially in large scale, considering that land is still an issue?
Thank you for the question. You are right, the Rwanda is, I can say, small in size, with about 26,338 square kilometers, where we have at least 43% of that land dedicated to agriculture, following the new Rwanda master plan. It means that you have a very limited land for agriculture. What the government is doing in order to facilitate the large-scale investment in agriculture, we have a certain number of strategies, starting by making the agricultural land attractive for investment by putting in place infrastructure needed. These include the terracing of the hilly areas, the water, the big-scale water retention and the storing infrastructure like dams and the wells. We put in place infrastructure in order to facilitate the investment, like roads, like communication network, like power lines in almost all the country, so that someone who wants to invest will find those facilities available. The second action is to facilitate the leasing of the private-owned land, because as you know, in Rwanda, the majority of the land belongs to the farmers, to the owners, the private owners. This is our land law, and the government facilitates the access to that land by putting in place that we call a sublease model, where you can sublease the land to owner who lease the land from the government. The third action is that you can access the land through expropriation of the public land, and we have some models. Those big projects which were shown by Dr. Birasa in the previous session, most of that land was obtained through those models, either through sublease of the land or through expropriation of the land, and that land can be used for a large-scale investment. And the fourth form of the land is that for the public land, it can be given to an investment, a private investment, through specific agreement with the government. The case of Gako Farm is one of the cases where the land can be acquired, the government land can be acquired for the private investment.
Absolutely. Maybe before we continue, I see we are joined by one of our young agribusinesses. If we can mic him up, Diodone has joined us, and then he can come on stage once he's mic'd up. But so far, Honorable Permanent Secretary, what mechanism has the government, or rather mechanisms, has the government considered to ensure the efforts towards the private sector investment promotion in agriculture also considers the livelihood of the smaller, smallholder farmers, so that they do not lose out in the very end?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, we have to know that even smallholder farmers are investors. The problem is that the size of the investment is very small to make business case and to make sense for investment. And what is being done is that, first of all, the smallholder owners of the land, small farmers, can benefit from the investment made in agriculture for large scale by benefiting from job created by those big investment. This is one of the advantage they can get from that. Second, they can even access directly the land lease, as our law allow that we can sublease the land. Third, the smallholder farmers can put together the small land through our land consolidation policy and attract big investors where they can have either a contract farming, or they can have that we call the outgrowers, like that we do in coffee or in tea productions. But also we know that by consolidating the small land together, you can benefit from the facilities put in place to easily access the market, and also to make really a minimum size that can make business, that can make profit, and that can make a significant role in business. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Viras, I want to bring you in now. Of course, you've given us a very beautiful PowerPoint, and you've categorically, put out there some of the investment opportunities that are there in our country. But then before one invests, we've seen in many other African countries, bureaucracy, taking time in offices, moving from one office to another, trying, others say you have to know someone particularly in an office. Is this the case here in the country?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, as I said earlier, it's completely different. Because one thing is that when the investor comes in the country, he wants to know exactly what's going on, what's happening. He wants also to be confident that when he puts his money, it's going to be protected. The investment is going to be protected. He's going to, to make money out of that. So that's what the government has done. Yeah, in terms of the protection of the private investment, the law is there. But number two, the access to information. So as I said earlier, we have RDB, which works as a one-stop shop for every investor that comes in the country. We have what we call deal accelerator in RDB that helps in terms of assessing and also sharing the information about the investment opportunities that we have in the country. And that helps in terms of informing the investors what the opportunities are. So accessing information is very, very important for any investment to be done. So in terms of the bureaucracy, that one doesn't exist. Because first of all, it's about the flow of information. It's about where you go when you enter in the country. Where do you go? Who do you want actually to ask, and so on and so on. So RDB actually has been working in terms of that. I can give you a very simple example, but what we normally do in collaboration with the other institutions, talk about the Ministry of Agriculture, the local government, and other agencies in terms of facilitating investors. Whenever they enter in the country, if someone wants to know where he can put the money, if he wants to visit a site to know where actually where the land is, where maybe can decide to put the money in terms of farming, putting the industry, the factory, we are always going with that person. And we help in terms of making the contact where that person goes. So that helps in terms of reducing that type of bureaucracy, making the information ready, and to facilitate that kind of interaction between the investor and the government agencies and the offices.
But how then do you, the middleman, there's always a middleman when it comes to business. I really do not know why, but how do you get rid to ensure there's no middleman, say, Fiona, I know someone from Dubai, or you can go through Fiona. How do you cut that middleman space in between?
Well, that thing of middleman actually, I would say doesn't exist, but it can also exist in different ways, yeah? We don't actually encourage that because first of all, we have the public institutions that are in charge of providing the information. We have our National Institute of Statistics that is publishing, doing surveys, collecting data, being in terms of what we are producing in agriculture, seasonally, annually, and all of that, in terms of collecting information related to imports and exports. And those are types of the macroeconomic information that helps in terms of how you decide where to do the investment. So that thing helps in terms of reducing that middleman. But at some point, investor, depending on the connection, depending maybe on who has maybe the contact, he can still have the contact with the local people. But the good thing that our community are very much educated in terms of facilitating also the investors are coming in.
Absolutely. But what would you say has been the role of agriculture so far in the Rwandan economy?
I would say it's huge. It's huge in terms of, one, the employment. If you check on the statistics for over years, it has been employing actually the number from 90% over the years, but now currently the rate is going down because of other sectors coming in. That's number one in terms of employment. Looking on the GDP, we are now talking over 25% of our GDP coming from agriculture. Looking on the export earning, it's also contributing hugely in terms of what we are selling outside today. So it actually has a huge contribution, and it has high value, being on the food security, but also on the macroeconomy of the country.
Absolutely. I want to bring in Dieudonné. He is, of course, one of the young agribusinesses. And, of course, he will be telling us, as a young person in agriculture, how is he dealing with this? What are some of the challenges he has faced? And then how better can he help the younger people to also join into the agricultural sector? Thank you for joining us, Dieudonné. So as a young entrepreneur, why did you decide to invest in agriculture?
Thank you. I decided to invest in agriculture because I was lucky enough to be exposed to it because I studied agriculture at the University of Rwanda. A few months later, I joined an agribusiness firm. Then that exposed me to opportunity in agriculture. And it's also in a sector or one of the field where you can start with a little money, and also with the government facility to support the Rwandan youth to join agriculture. All these factors has put together to help me to join agriculture at early stage.
So what has been your target market so far? Because I know Gashora Farms, you deal with chili. What has been so far your largest market? Yeah,
my largest market are Asia and the EU. We targeted this kind of market because we know that they are the first consumer of the spice. And also we have different factors that allow us to compete with the world. I can say like chili is a labor-intensive crop where Rwanda or Africa, we have labor which is very affordable compared to those countries of Asia or EU. And we also have another advantage that as in Rwanda, we can supply the whole year round because our climate allows us to produce the year round, whereas those countries, although they are fast consumer and exporter or importer, but also they can't produce the whole year round. They have a limitation of the climate, so that ourselves will take advantage when they are short of, or they're off season. It's when we take advantage of to start supply. Another factor is that Africa or Rwanda is considered as a land virgin, where you find this kind of markets, they are looking for organic products or use of limited fertilizer. And Rwanda, since it's a new crop for us, we are trying to be organic and give a best product than all other countries, which I can say we are competing on the international.
Is internal competition a threat for you? Because I know we have seen others who have Chile as well, and they are also doing the same business with you. Is it a competition?
I think, like internally, I can't say competition. Even myself, I would love to see so many people jump in agribusiness because it's put the Rwanda on the map of spice or the players in the world. If we have so many people who can produce and export, also I can say worldwide, we still have shortage with the volume required. So I can't say that it's competition. I would love to see so many people jump in the business, so that at least we can put maybe our country or our region to be on the map of spice player.
Absolutely. So there's room for more.
Yes.
I want to bring you in, PS. So land use consolidation is one of the flagship programs that the country has developed and, of course, implemented successfully. To what extent do you perceive this program would be useful for the private investors, especially in the agricultural space?
Thank you. The land use consolidation is useful for investment, and starting by the farmers themselves that are using those small farms. Because when you have a very small piece of land, it's difficult to make profit from it. Is the reason why the government opted for the land use consolidation policy. And the first advantage is that those small investors, as they are, they can put together their lands and other means in order to make a profitable piece of land. And for external or for other investors that want to invest on the land, when you have land consolidated together, it's easier to invest on those land. If, for example, this young man who is with us, I think he's working with many farmers who have land consolidated together. They have small piece of land, but they attracted him as an investor to invest on their land, and they're producing now chili. And this is one of the big advantages of putting together the land. And this is the case in Rwanda, in Chile, but you have the same cases in other vegetables like French beans and other crops. And another advantage of putting the land together is that when you put your land together, it's easier to get services. To get services like extension services, because the information sharing is easy, and we combine it with the commodities also with the crop consolidation. The extension material reach easily the farmers in order to improve what they're producing, and also people who are interested in market and in other services required by farmers are easily facilitated when the land, those small pieces of land are put together to increase the production. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. And of course, the production grows.
Yes.
Whereas feed the cities, grow the continent. How do you think these activities will help us, in terms of agriculture? How better can we feed the cities particularly, even as we aim to grow the continent, but more so feed them good food. You know, there's growing food and there's food that is not so nutritious for our children and for the future. How do we change this?
Yeah, thank you so much for the good question. I think actually it's about the theme of this year's edition. It's very, very important. Because one thing is that the African cities are growing. We are seeing a big number of people coming into cities. I can even see it from the example of Kigali. If you compare the number of people that have been here for the last 30 years, it's no longer the same. So the number is growing, not only here, but in other cities in Africa. So catering for those people is very, very daunting task, especially in terms of food availability, but also accessibility, and also the quality of that food. So I see it as a challenge, but also as an opportunity for the investors, because if you can grow food in rural areas and then you bring them in the city, that brings, of course, a very good market and source of income for the investors. So I really see it as a very big opportunity, but this can only happen if the investors take that as an advantage for them. They start doing, investment. And of course, that investment requires being, very strategic, in terms of knowing what consumers here need in the cities. Because first of all, the city, the quality matters. So it's understanding exactly what type of the product at what price that people in the cities will, of course, be looking to buy. So that thing of the supply chain matters a lot in terms of feeding people in the city areas.
Absolutely. Dieudonné, we know of, recently you signed a very lucrative deal to sell chili in China. How easy was it for you to first get this market, in China?
I would say it wasn't that much easy, but I always advise even my fellow exporters or agribusinessmen that the best way of getting the market is to know when is the best expedition. Because when you attend the right expedition, absolutely you're going to get the market, because all the players, if they're there and you have your sample, you get the deal of getting the right market.
But how much did you get out of this?
We signed a contract for 5 years to supply chili to China. The quantity is between 10,000 to 50,000 tons a year, per year, and that translates to between 20 million to 100 million per year. And of course, as the Honorable PS has said, it's not, it's have to benefit to different farmers, because we work with large numbers of farmers who can help me to get that target for volume we've signed for.
Absolutely. I want to bring in the PS maybe as you sum up now. As the government of Rwanda increasingly engages with private sector, what lessons would you like to share with the business community out there? Because I'm sure in your office you sit and receive either lots of compliments or complaints.
We have a lot of key lessons to share with the private sector. The first one is to advise them to invest much where we have the comparative advantage, like in some key commodities, like those ones which are much suitable for our climate zone, and where we have are suitable for which are highly productive, because we have smaller land, and those ones which can benefit from all the incentives we are providing for the private sector. The second lesson, the second lesson, and we can share, is that when you want to invest in agriculture in Rwanda, it's better to invest by thinking to put farmers in the center of your investment, so that you can partner with them, and together you can develop sustainable business where you will share the benefit. It will be a win-win situation between the investment and the farmers, and especially those small land owners, farmers, or for owners of the land. The third thing I can share is that in order to succeed, we we have to continue we can continue promoting the public-private how to say the public-private
Yeah.
discussions, and in order to together to find any constraints to the development of the sector, and together to find solutions in order to promote the agriculture sector, and also we also may think about to continue adjusting incentives in order to encourage and to support investment in the agriculture sector. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you very much. As we sum up, Birasa, if you were to make the one perfect pitch to our investors who are watching, the deal breaker, as we've said, you're in a deal room, what would that be, the deal breaker that will convince that investor that is watching right now to come and invest in agriculture in remarkable Rwanda?
Well, I think one, as I said earlier, we really have our Gabiro, which is working as is going to be our agriculture hub because of how it's actually being conceptualized and what it's providing in terms of the opportunity, but in terms of the multiple investment opportunities. It's going to actually bring a lot of opportunities around that. So I would say that, but of course, people should not forget about our investment climate. It is still, you know, a condition that people can always rely on. Government has done a lot. There are so many reforms that have, you know, taken place to ensure that private investors can put their money here, they are secured, and they get, of course, benefits. Not forgetting about, of course, the market accessibility, because I'm sure that's what normal investors are looking for. So I would say briefly, they are very much welcome.
Thank you. Dieudonné, as we sum up to the youth who are watching and are not yet fully engaged into agriculture or still do not believe agriculture is attractive enough for the youth, what would your word be to them?
Yeah, my message to the fellow youth is if they want to start to invest in agriculture, they have to first to find a crop which the country has competitive advantage compared to other countries which can be scaled up, and have a vision and work hard toward that vision. Also, they have to be persistent because so many large number of youth, they jump in something, then tomorrow they shift, they go to study, they go to look for a job. So I think they should have persistence and work hard to achieve their vision. Agriculture is one of the sector or field where you can start small and grow organically and make sure you go to grow and make money out of it.
And to investors who are watching, would you tell them to come invest with you or come invest in the country?
My message to investors is like they have to trust the youth. Of course, some of the youth they disappoint investors or other people who are supporting them, especially financial institutions. But I think there is a way they can structure the financing to these youth to make sure even they are locking the money, but the money is being used to what is supposed to be used. For example, if you are an investor, you want to support someone to produce a certain quantity, you make sure you're helping him to pay all the partners or stakeholders so that at least the youth can achieve its targets. So I think they should trust them and also think, not generalize all those youth, because some of people have the perception that the youth are not serious. So we need to deal with, like, to educate investors, like youth are different. Some of them are very focused, but they just need help. But of course, to minimize the risk, they need to accompany them, advise them, not only if only the youth are looking for money, sometimes if they're looking for the advice. If you are going to look for investment from an institution or a financial institution or an investor, sometimes even you can advise the youth, like this someone has done this, we invest in someone like past years, you should act like this. I think we should give them the chance to give them advice and also support them financially.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable PS, for making time to be with us. Birasa, thank you very much. Dieudonné, thank you very much. And of course, to our investors, welcome to Remarkable Rwanda.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done.